Hello, all you buddies without your film degrees. That's right, we're back in YouTube.
Bordiceps chew dead people.
What was chew?
What was chew?
How does that... Is it the French spelling where it starts with an F?
Yeah.
Hey everybody, welcome back. We are going to review season 1 of The Last of Us. That's right, the HBO Max show that has taken the world by storm. Well, and I know a lot of people are talking about it here because with the stellar first game and the second more controversial game, people were looking at this video game adaptation that turned into a HBO drama show, and they were thinking, is this gonna be shit? And today we're going to do a little retrospective of it. It's been about a month since the series has ended at this point.
Nice buzzword.
Month.
Yeah.
Yeah, month.
Fortnite.
So we're gonna be looking at what worked in the show, what didn't work in the show, and what are we looking forward to in the second season, when and if they make it. And so we'll just jump off from there, guys. How do you feel about the show all around?
Well, I really liked it. Honestly, though, before I want to give my impression on it, I would like to hear everybody's first impressions before, just when the show was announced and they showed the trailer. What did you guys think the show was going to be like?
So, this is an interesting sort of question because this is something that I've talked about in the past. Is sort of this view that narrative gaming might be the most effective possible way to tell a story. And there's a conversation. Maybe there's a video coming out. I was conflicted because obviously we've got a lot of bad adaptations. We've had a lot of good adaptations recently. So I was hopeful yet cautious. Fortnite.
Yeah, no, I was pretty much the same way. I like that it was HBO that was taking it on because generally speaking, they know how to write good stories and they know how to shoot it.
Velma.
Generally speaking. But yeah, I thought, hey, this will probably be pretty good because, I mean, the story and the source material isn't something you have to expound on that much to turn it into a TV show. Because it was already styled like an HBO TV show anyways, so in terms of presentation, characters, all that stuff, so.
Yeah, with me, well, for one, video game adaptations generally have a pretty bad rap for good reason. Not saying that there isn't good adaptations, but even when there is a good adaptation, it's mainly adapting the concept rather than the story.
Yes.
And this is a video game that is pretty much already blurring the line between a video game and a movie. So I just kind of thought that an adaptation of this would be one redundant or I mean really just unnecessary and redundant, or they're just trying to change too much and it doesn't work. And I will say I have not seen the Uncharted movie, but after I heard that it wasn't good, and that was a Naughty Dog game with already a great narrative. So I just kind of figured that even though HBO generally makes really good stuff, I didn't think it'd be bad. I just thought I thought it'd be redundant.
Yeah.
But I will say, after watching the first episode, God was I wrong.
Yeah.
Well, I want to point out. I think that's something I didn't think about just now. Yeah, I agree about the redundancy. Because like you said, generally adaptations have been, well, not even adaptations, based on.
Yeah.
Is that an adaptation you still call it?
Yeah.
Well, yeah.
It doesn't matter.
Just more like
Right.
translating the concept rather than a story.
Yeah.
So let's kind of like focus in on the TV show. What do you guys think worked about it narratively? And we can compare it to the game, but I think just as a TV show, what do you think worked? Whether it's narrative, action, the cinematography, acting, anything like that. What are the parts that you enjoyed the most in that?
I would say the pacing, and again, I mean, not trying to really compare it to the game, but the pacing did match the game's pacing in the sense that I did like that it was just confined to it wasn't even 10 episodes, it was just 9.
Yeah.
And everything was blocked off very well. The pacing was very well done all throughout. The Bill episode was the first episode that really surprised me because that was the biggest departure from the video game. That's straight from the showrunner's mouth. That was their biggest departure from the game, and yet it didn't feel like they were changing anything. In fact, they were giving us something that we didn't get in the game. But it still felt like that could have been part of the game, you know? And I don't know, yeah, the acting was amazing. The fact that that I can't remember his last name, but Neil, the original the original director of the game, had a big hand in this. And I think that's actually that needs to be mandatory if you're going to make an adaptation of anything. I think my favorite part about this show was the set design. Was so like just it was such a picture perfect recreation of every scene in the video game. And I was the most taken aback by that when it was I think it was the second to last episode in the resort.
Yeah.
That was just like one for one. The Last of Us and Naughty Dog as a game company is known for their attention to detail, and they definitely brought that here.
Yeah, I'm not always a stickler for the one-for-one recreations. As a matter of fact, I prefer it not to be.
Yeah.
But I did appreciate when it was, you know, nodding to the game and even recreating shots, because I do think that shows a dedication to it being an adaptation versus it just being, you know, something else based on the content. I think that's important. I think they did that well. But for me, it was the atmosphere of the show. The atmosphere, it just felt lonely a lot of the times. And that truly is what Joel is dealing with, is loneliness. And just sort of this tension that kind of lingers in the air. And I think that the reason why that works so well is because there are like 2 zombies. Two fungi boys in the entire episode, or in the entire show. Outside of the 2 hordes, we get 2 zombies, and we get 3 zombies and 2 hordes, and that's it. And it's very different than what we're used to seeing in zombie media, and that may just because it's 20 years later, but sort of it isn't as much about the zombies themselves, but the impact that it leaves on the world and on individuals.
Yeah, as far as things to praise, like Chris said, set design and just in general, like everything, makeup, wardrobe, prosthetics, everything like that, just visually, nothing looked unreal unless it was CGI. And
there wasn't that much CGI. Like there was a little, but the base of the clickers and the infected were all
right. Well,
effects.
and that's what I'm saying. Yeah, and again, it was almost because the prosthetics were so good that the CGI is just going to not look as good in comparison, and that could be it. But yeah, all around that worked out pretty well. And I really enjoyed all the additions, like you said, Jake, to the show that were not in the game. You know, taking it away from the game for a second, like the reason that they use these scenes is not just to build out the runtime or just to add different things in. It is to explore what the show is about, which is us, human beings. It's not about the zombies.
last
Right.
of us.
Right, and so a show that's named that does explore other characters and other situations. We get Bill and what's his name? Bill and Frank in the 3rd episode. Yeah. We get the woman at Kansas City, like that whole thing that's going on. And we get some other things as well. I enjoyed seeing the early stages of the outbreak. In the few times that we did, I kind of wish that we had stuck with that a little bit longer into the show, because we only saw it like 3 times, which is fine. But yeah, like I do think a lot of that worked. I thought Pedro Pascal did a really good job. I thought everybody else did a good job, but this could be a jumping into the things that we didn't like. and we can kind of go around the table about that. I do not think Bella Ramsey really can act.
See, I'm conflicted on this, and I want to talk about this a little bit more. But to your point about the things they added as well, it really changes the perspective of how you're viewing certain characters. And this is why I think Last of Us Part 2, the game, is so amazing. You should play it before I say anything.
Yeah.
The perspective thing. But the episode with Riley, right? We've seen and we've heard Ellie talk about all of these things, and we've seen them sort of come out in her weaker moments. And then we see what happened. And all of a sudden, it all clicks. And then you're like, oh, that's what's going on. All these little pieces start coming together. And, you know, if we had seen that after with Joel, then that would have been the same thing. And then with the Fedra as well. And then with the birth of Ellie, too. So those little tidbits of extra information just completely change how we view and will view a character in the future,
and the dynamics that they have with everybody.
And I think it's very powerful to see that.
No, I agree.
And sometimes we don't need to see that, it's implied. But also, sometimes we do need to see that. I also don't know if I think Bella Ramsey fits in this.
Yeah.
I think I'm conflicted because there are moments where she does great.
Yeah.
It's
Yes.
specifically, and my favorite moment is when Joel, they're like in the snow after he's been stabbed and he falls off the horse. And I think that moment just is so contrasted with how she has been this entire show. And for the first time, she felt small to me. And her hands were like tiny compared to his face. And I think that moment was excellent.
And I really don't know how to nail down what the issue is, other than the fact I just couldn't stop seeing her try to act.
Yes.
It didn't feel like she was living as this character. Like the very last episode is almost a shot-for-shot recreation of like the bit of the game, but the very last scene, like quite literally is shot for shot what it is. And everybody knows the very last shot of the first game is Ellie basically reacting to what Joel is telling her happened, even though it's a lie, and it's implied through her face that she doesn't believe him. At least that's an interpretation. It looked as though she was trying to convince me that's what she was feeling, not that she was feeling that. And that is a microcosm of what the problem is at large in the show. In terms of her acting, again, it's not that it's always bad.
Right. Yeah.
When I say she's not a good actor or you know, whatever, I'm not saying that like she pulled me out of the entire show all the time, but I am saying that it was not a believable performance on the whole, which is unfortunate. This is my largest problem with the entire show. Take away any other like criticism that I may have. The biggest problem that I have in the entire show is actually the opposite of what you said, Chris. I don't think the pacing was good.
Ooh.
I think the pacing was actually god awful.
I think the pacing was good at the beginning.
Sure.
Around the end, it did start to kind of...
The problem with the pacing is that we got our first flashback in episode 3. That was too early. That entire episode did not have any relevant information for Joel and Ellie's relationship when they just met in the last episode. And then we come in and we get one episode of them not really getting along, and then the rest of the show is them getting along pretty well. And then in the very last episode, Ellie has like the most traumatic event of her life happen. And in the game, and again, I don't like to compare it to the game, but in the game, we get an entire section where Ellie is clearly closed off because of this interaction with the cannibals. And Joel is actually taking the time out of his day to be funny with her, to try to relate to her, to try to bring back conversation because she is so closed off. It's a literal inverse of where they were at the beginning, and this is because of what happened to her. And this shows how much he wants the relationship, so when he has to go and do the thing at the very end of the show, we feel that he wants that more. We got that for 3 minutes.
Yeah.
And the entire last episode was rushed. we get out of it an extremely traumatic thing that happens. We get a little bit of like, oh man, hey, don't you want to kind of clown around? And it's like, I guess. And he's like, I did try to kill myself, but I really like you.
Yeah, well, they stopped and they sat down.
No. They had a conversation. Yeah. They walked a little bit, stopped and sat down, and had a conversation. And then they walked a little bit, and then the show can continue. Yeah. And it's just, again, the pacing is not good. I loved the third episode. I honestly think that should be nominated for something because it is beautiful in the story and the way it's shot and the acting, especially. Like, give Nick Offerman something.
Give him an offer, man.
Yeah,
an Oscar, man.
Yeah, but it's but again, that episode. I think there should have been 10 episodes. It's basically.
Ooh, I'm so glad you said that.
Why wasn't there 10 episodes? Yeah.
I don't know. And what I think should have happened is I think there should have been.
There's an episode next week.
There should have. That would be scary.
Bonus.
There should have been 3 episodes before we get that first flashback. Then we go on the story, and then Joel gets hurt, and then we have our second flashback episode, which I don't think we really needed it all that much. And maybe this would have worked in 9 episodes if we didn't have 2 separate episodes in which the main 2 characters are not interacting with each other. But again, it does flesh out her character. It does flesh out the world a little bit more. I get it. But again, there needed to be more. The pacing does not work as it works now. And if they go into do season 2, which is a much longer game, and they try to do what they do here with the pacing, it is not going to work. Because of how controversial the narrative is in there, if you don't spend time to develop these characters at all, if you just give us a bunch of random ass episodes, it's gonna make people hate it again.
The first 2 episodes, I think, were the best episodes.
Yeah.
As far as the show in its entirety goes. I also love episode 3, and I
it's
think
also
it
the
is
longest episode.
The best episode. It's an hour and a half. Yeah.
Oh wow.
It's a feature film. Is the best episode in the show, but I do agree it has nothing to do with the plot, which sucks because it is so good. But then we have episode, is it 8? Where the first 20 minutes are just some random people.
It's the second to last episode.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, I will say my biggest gripe with the pacing is that episode because again, that was such a pivotal moment for Ellie. I thought that arc should have been told in 2 episodes.
Yeah. Well, and so at the end of 8, we got 1 episode left. I'm thinking, how are they going to pull this off? And I even said when we were watching episode 9, I said, is this going to be it? And the final sequence takes
10 minutes.
10 minutes?
Yeah.
It shouldn't have been a montage either.
And the whole time we're not even building up to this?
Yeah. It literally comes out of nowhere. In the game, you feel like this is the only resort that Joel has, and you feel his pain. In the show, they're like, yeah, she's gonna have to die to do it, but we're gonna save the entire world. We know that we can do it. And, and then he's like, and then he just kills everybody super quick. Doctor comes up to tease season 2, and he shoots them, and then they leave. Yeah. And then there's a little conversation with Marlene, and then it's over.
Yeah. Well, yeah. And so for our first, and it's one of the shorter episodes in the series, only 54 minutes. And most of the time we've been pushing at least
almost an hour.
Yeah, right over an hour. And again, the first 40 minutes are them just walking around and talking, which would have been fine if there was an episode 10. Because that would have made more sense, right? This is all this building of suspense. He's going to do what's going to happen. And so all that makes sense. But we see the giraffes, which are awesome, by the way. My favorite sequence of the first game. And they're walking, and then just some guys show up.
And throw a little grenade, or a stun bomb or something.
And then we're in the hospital, and now this is the climax of the show.
Yeah. Yeah, no, in the game, just getting to the operating room, it takes a long time, it's very intense, and it's meant to be. It's all summed up in a montage here.
Yeah, and not even and so, man, we're just talking about the last episode right now, which, who cares?
It's the last
it's
episode.
The climax.
Of us.
It matters the most, theoretically.
Yeah.
Yeah, man, as soon as that music started playing, it was like, this is how they're gonna do this, huh? And it takes
I had
away
no emotion.
It takes away everything because you're not there with him.
You're watching it.
Yeah, you're like, when you start this montage, which can be an excellent technique to use.
Think up.
Oh, I was gonna say Shrek,
That too.
but I mean, and that happens in the Dark Night of the Soul, but in a climax of what is supposed to be a heavily emotional narrative. And we just see him emotionlessly shoot a bunch of people, and now this is sort of like, well, he's just, there is no other option for him, and that's true, but it doesn't look like he's making a choice. It looks like he's...
This is also a Joel that has now been forced to kind of change and actually feel emotion, and now he's being forced to go right back to to how he used to be. So I would like to actually see that conflict in him, and I didn't really see that.
And earlier in the show, we have seen him not want to kill and have an emotional sort of conflict in himself every time he kills, specifically with the sniper that was in the house when they were trying to leave Fedra, the city or whatever, and he's like, just don't do it. Just put the gun down.
Yeah.
And he kills him. And then we see this turmoil in him. And we see this turmoil in him every time Ellie is around and he has to kill. And then here, he has to kill people who are trying to save the world. And this is another conversation with, that has to do with, was Joel right? Was Joel, whatever.
Well, I was actually going to end this discussion with that question.
Oh, okay.
Well, anything else then?
Yeah, a couple things. I like some of the things they changed and added. I didn't like the shit that they took away. I didn't like the things they took away. I was fine with them taking away my favorite scene in the game, which was the upside down scene, where he first goes to where Bill is, and he gets caught in one of his traps, and you have to shoot upside down. And I was like, oh well, if they're going to put that in the show, that's going to be awesome. But I like that the trade-off is that we got episode 3. And so that was fine. And also that was a moment in the game that was more cinematic. So, it's fine that we lost it in the show. But do you disagree? You shook your head.
Oh, did I? I did not mean to.
Oh, no.
That's just Kyle's natural state is disagreement.
We're going to end this discussion with a
more
quick,
things we hate.
No. We're just going to go real quick into the question that everybody's going to be wondering after both games release, as well as maybe this season as well. Was Joel right in his choice to take Ellie away from the Fireflies?
I don't know if I want to talk about this. I don't want to have.
I don't think that's the point, because he knows the answer.
Does he?
Yeah, he knows that it wasn't right.
I don't think This is okay. In the description, there's going to be a link to a video by this guy named Fat Brett, and he actually has an essay about this. It's like 30 minutes long. Go check that out. Joel was not right.
Okay. Why do you say that?
Because there could be a cure.
Could be?
For the entire world. I mean, that's all science. One person's sacrifice versus all who remain.
So here's the question. Did Ellie know that she was being sacrificed?
No.
No.
Does that matter?
In the apocalypse?
In the apocalypse, yes, but on a moral principle.
On a moral principle, no.
What is morality is...
Yes, but...
Well,
fluid.
okay.
Yes, I don't
think either one of them were right in what they were doing.
In the apocalypse, it is the lesser evil for them to unwillingly sacrifice her, because it is
but it's
even
still not right.
It's the lesser evil. It's more right than
the lesser evil. Yeah, that makes sense.
It is more right than for Joel to kill a bunch of people who are trying to better the Earth potentially for one girl that he is known for however long this show takes place.
Yeah. Which could be like max a year.
Yeah.
Is it
Yeah.
right? Maybe. Basically, Ellie is immune because her mom was infected
right when she was born.
And so the idea is that blood got into her blood, but not the fungus, kind of. So it's a little shaky, and it wasn't really fleshed out in the game. And you're not supposed to try to figure it out in the game.
Yeah, but also in the game, they said that something to the effect of like they had audio logs in the game where basically they were like, yeah, this probably isn't going to work. We've had numerous non-successful trials. This is a last resort. I hope that her mom will forgive me because she's about to die and we ain't getting nothing.
Well, but I mean, that's what science is, right? And I think Nate had a great, he worded this so well, is that, you know, science is made up of failures. And so by eliminating one of the causes or one of the potentials, you are closer to finding a vaccine. And so maybe they wouldn't find a vaccine, Fortnite. They would be closer. They would be closer.
Maybe. Well, you also got to think, like, you don't just do human trials of vaccines.
You haven't seen Venom.
Or are you saying it's not ethical to do that?
I'm saying it's definitely not ethical to take somebody who doesn't know they're about to die, who's under the assumption that they're just going to get like some blood work done or something, and killing them in the hopes that you will get a vaccine in which you have not had any successful trials beforehand, even remotely successful trials. Shooting in the dark is not moral when you don't know what's there. Well, everybody, that is our discussion of the first season of The Last of Us. Better late than never. I guess real quick ratings out of 10. I'm gonna give it a solid 7.5 out of 10.
Yeah, I'll give it like a high 7 or low 8.
That's pretty much where I'm sitting, 7.5.
Subscribe if you enjoyed it, like the video if you like it, and let us know, was Joel wrong?
Or just subscribe and like.
Or just
Yeah,
subscribe. Like, you don't have to,
to
but
get it.
also
Or I'm gonna feed you to a zombie and.
then
You can't say zombie, they're infected.
Sorry, zombim,
Zombers.
Oh, no. Yeah. Fortnite Gwitty. Fortnite Gwitty. Fortnite Gwitty. God damn.